Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Back. We are going to visit with Karmen. Karmen has done a lot of research on the Fauci issues with the puppies, and we've got so many places to go. I'm just going to jump right over to you, Karmen.
Well, thank you, Mary. It had been quite the news headlines on some of the stations. I don't know which stations all of our viewers watch, but it's pretty common knowledge now that Anthony Fauci has now been in the spotlight again for using and funding research on baby beagle puppies for what I would call really sick reasons. Little puppies, but you know, he has done experiments with taxpayer dollars funded through the, if you ever hear the term NIAID, that's the National Institute of Allergies and Infectious Diseases, and that's part of the National Institute of Health. And Dr. Fauci's been the head of the NIAID since 1984. I thought, what an appropriate year for him to have started there when you think of the book, right? Yeah. So, you know, now there's 24, it started out as 24 lawmakers, and now more of them have added on to, they've written him a letter, and they want an explanation by November 19th, because with the revelation of this story, there's more information that has come out. And so from the UK Daily Mail, there was quite an article just the last few days, and maybe we can pull up that graphic, because it really starts, there's a White Coast Waste Project that has been doing Freedom of Information Acts and whatnot, and you know, they found that we sent tax dollars, or in Fauci's organization did, $375,000 to Tunisia, Africa, to research beagle puppies. They were forced a new drug and then locked in cages with sandflies to be eaten alive. And you can see where their heads are, you know, they're drugged there. They can't move. Just little beagle puppies. They look bigger than they are. You know, and then that was in 2016. Then in 2018 and 19, we funded a study in Menlo Park, California, for $1.8 million, if we could, and that's where they took and they did cordectomies on these puppies, and so they couldn't bark. And then they filled them full of drugs, and then they injected weird things in them, and then they killed and dissected them. And, you know, this is a picture of the sandflies that in the University of Georgia, they were part of this as well, where taxpayers, $425,000, you had beagles hauling in, they're just in pain, because
so they strap those on and let the beetles bite.
This is sandflies, the sandflies that were in those pictures, and that's back to Tunisia, and where they strap them on their bodies, on their heads, and let those sandflies eat them alive, basically. Wow. And they were trapped there and could not move. And that's research. In the name of research of what? Who can do that and not? I mean, I'd be throwing up. I'd have to quit my job. I couldn't do it. But then in 2020, this is September of 2020, at the University of Georgia, again, taxpayer funded, $425,000. That's where they're howling in pain. They were drugged, and then they were intentionally infested with parasite camping flies. And then they were howling because they couldn't do anything about it. And then people would, you know, you see all these things saying, oh, this is cruel, it's reprehensible misuse of taxpayer dollars, and we just can't do this to these poor little puppies, and it's so horrible, and it's a national disgrace, and the NIH should be ashamed of itself, and all these comments, right? Yeah. Well, then, come to find out, you know, Fauci has denied this under oath as well, but, you know, it's all these things that are funded by our tax dollars that are just horrific, right? All these puppies, you know, and then I don't like mice, I don't like rats, I don't like any of that, but what they're doing to them as well in the name of research. You know, if Fauci says, you know, everything is okay, whatever, and I don't know if he'll come up with anything by the 19th, But when he says, you know, when we talk about it as a country and we say, you know, it's animal suffering, but why don't we talk about the human suffering? Why do we never go there? And what are our tax dollars funding when it comes to aborted fetal tissue? When it comes to aborted babies? And we're just going to get into that a little bit, but first I have a little look at, you know, Planned Parenthood is a big player in all of this. And if Planned Parenthood was killing puppies instead of babies, America would have shut them down by now. And if you saw the kind of stuff like we just saw right now for the last 50 years on your TV screen, do you think that it would have been shut down by now if it was puppies? I think it would have. I really do. But instead, all of this stuff, words matter, just like Jan's section, where we call it research, we call it helping to develop vaccines so that we can save our people. But they don't tell you how all that's done. And there's a study that came out, there's information, the University of Pittsburgh has been involved in fetal organ research for more than a decade. Wow. And it conducted an experiment in 2020 that implanted the scalps of aborted fetuses onto lab mice in a study that was funded by Fauci's National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. This shows the little mouse, and if you go to the next one, then it'll show you the grant proposal boasts of the institution's experience handling a variety of fetal organs, including the liver, the heart, the legs, the brain, the kidneys, the bladders. We're talking about human babies right now. And it never gets talked about because words matter, and this is so much reality. And how can you know, and we're funding that? Really? Oh, no, we don't fund Planned Parenthood. Oh, yeah, we do.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Oh, yeah, we do. And then, and like this writer said, Dr. Liberto that did this article, he said, you see words like we have a sample and subdivided. And it's like, well, we're talking about a human being, but we don't say that. We say samples, we say stem cells, we say all these words that make it sound very medical, very professional, very save the world, save the people, we're such good, you know, when you look at how many vaccines have been developed from fetal cells, it's heartbreaking. And then you get into this study, and they actually, in Pittsburgh, there was where they actually harvested organs based on the race of the fetus.
Oh my gosh.
All the way up to 42 weeks. They wanted from black babies, and that was only 8% of the population in Pittsburgh, but that's what they wanted for their research because they think blacks get sick more, so then they wanted to do all this testing on their live organs, took live organs from those babies and couldn't, so that they could do the research on them. I can't even tell you how do we live with ourselves as a nation knowing that if we just are willing to look at the big picture and get real and do our research, my gosh,